staff for hosting us. He proudly boasted that this is the best Mexican food north of the border. As an El Pasoan, I will not take any offense at that.
Of the Iowa border.
Of the Iowa border.
I wasn't done.
Yeah. But thank you. And you were so kind to meet me out in the parking lot and to personally welcome us to your restaurant and to your community. Got to speak to some of your staff, all wonderful people. So thank you. We cannot wait to try the food. To Mayor Greer for the example that he provides in his leadership, reminding all of us, wherever we live in this country, that we are a country of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees and people who came here from the planet over, found a home in the United States of America and made this country better by their very presence. I love that kind of leadership. I love what we've seen from Police Chief Tupper. We were just talking to a business owner downtown, and he said this is a very safe community because everyone is treated with respect and dignity. Nobody fears law enforcement. Everyone knows they can go to law enforcement to report a crime or to serve as a witness or testify in a trial. Everyone's invested in the success of the community. I know that has a lot to do with the leadership of the police chief. Representative Smith, your advocacy, your connecting all of us around the country with Iowa, which I did not think of as a state or a home of immigrants, but it very clearly is. And that point driven home to us, we were just at the community college where we met those who'd come to this country from Mexico, but also from Myanmar, from Sudan, from the Congo, from all over the world. We met a woman who came here from Spain. And what was so interesting to me in her high-level English as a second language class was she was there to learn English so she could contribute more to the success of the community. She says, I just want to make sure I'm doing everything I can for Marshalltown, and I cannot do that if I can't speak English. So I'm paying the money, I'm taking the time to make sure that I'm at my best for not just my family, but for everyone here. We need to tell and celebrate those stories right now because immigrants are under attack unlike any time that I can remember in my lifetime. 22 people killed in El Paso, Texas, my hometown, just a little more than 2 weeks ago because of fear and hatred towards immigrants in this country. Warnings of invasions and infestations and animals and predators and killers, all words used unfortunately by the President of the United States, found a home with somebody who drove 600 miles, brought an AK-47, and killed people and injured many more in our community. We saw an ICE raid in Mississippi, nearly 700 people, the polleros working in the chicken processing plants, rounded up, detained, some still held right now for the crime of coming to this country and working a job that in many cases no one born in this country would work. We've got to connect the dots for folks. Not only stop what we don't like, but as the mayor said, come together, Republicans, Democrats, independents alike, and rewrite this country's immigration laws in our own image, in the image of Marshalltown, in the image of El Paso, in the image of this country. That's what I hope to be able to move a step closer towards doing today by listening to everybody who's come out. And so I thank you for your presence. Looking forward to the conversation. And Mayor, I understand you're going to facilitate the next step. So thank you for doing that. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.
The floor is open. If anyone would like to speak, raise a hand and we'll visit with you. Maybe we should go around and do more than introduce ourselves, but maybe come up with one question or one idea, one comment. Sarah, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Sarah Rosenberg. I'm the Public Library Director, and I've been here 8 years. And a little over 100 years ago, my family fled Eastern Europe. They were Jews under persecution. They fled, they settled in New Hampshire, and I'm just amazed that 100 years ago, my family came and was able to live the American dream, and now similar families are being denied what has happened to my family, and I don't understand the change in that. And in the 8 years I've been here, I realized diversity has made this a great city. I grew up in Houston, so I'm used to diversity, and I think that Marshalltown is so much stronger because of diversity, but I don't know why. So, and I know there's a history of every group has had issues with immigration, but I'm just totally taken back.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that.
Lydia, before I get to you, let me tell my two daughters, our two daughters, one just got married a month or so ago, the other one's getting married in October. Both of them insist and one lives in San Francisco and New York, the other lives in Austin, Texas. Both of them will tell you emphatically they got a better education because of the diversity here, and they were better ready for college, better ready for the real world than if they had been in my hometown of Spencer that has 99% white. And so this is a good thing for us, and we know it, and my kids say. Lydia.
Lydia Youngall, I work for Shelter Services and Spanish families. I grew up in Marshalltown, with caregivers, daughters, and so I would agree with that wholeheartedly that I felt better prepared for college, having experienced the diversity, and I think it's that students can embrace if we encourage that and try to build on that.
Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Everything that went on it. Now, what I like what Sarah said is this community is so diverse. I can't imagine like what those children are going through. I know like myself, we have family support, we have community support from JOA, and along with other community leaders. And this community has like came a long way from what it was before.
What was the name of the restaurant we were, the store we were just at?
Zamora?
We were just at Zamora, and we asked Jose, the owner, about what you just described, some of the fear that those raids inspire. And I asked him, what does that do to your business? And he said, well, for a while, business drops off because people don't leave the house because they're afraid that they may not come back home to their kids. But at some point, it picks back up because people have to leave. They have to go to work. They have to get their kids to school. And so they just continue life with the uncertainty of not knowing how long they're going to be able to do this or when they're going to be apprehended. So that ICE raid in Mississippi that you just mentioned seems to have triggered a lot for many in this community. He was saying that as well. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I'm Karina Hernandez and I'm head of the Marshalltown School Board. I'm also, I work for MICAS, which is a nonprofit agency that works with people in poverty. And I moved here 20 years ago. I grew up with immigrant parents who actually benefited from the amnesty visiting, so they were lucky enough to do that. But I moved here with the shock of diversity. 20 years ago, Marshalltown did not look what it looks like now. And my fear was my kids not being exposed to that. I have 3 kids now who definitely benefiting from the diverse community that we have here. And my daughter loves to travel, never a culture shock anywhere she goes because we have it here. And I think that is a great strength that we have here in our community, is the fact that this is what the real world looks like. We're exposing our children to culture, languages, people from different color, and a community effort that we come together and we're united. So our country is becoming very, I want to say, divided, and that's not what our community looks like. So to me, the strength is that we're giving those kids the unity of a community where they can go out and expand in our country.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're looking for other school board members because a couple aren't going to run again, but the school board has taken a turn for the better in this town, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you.
I am the first Latina to be a board member, so any Latinos out there that want to be a board member, it'd be great.
First elected Latina
Yes.
in Marshall County.
Wow.
Latina or Latino.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Did you know that Alfonso was actually considering running for mayor last night? He knew I was coming up. That would be great.
You want to start with the board?
Great.
My name is Maria Gonzalez. I am Karina's older sister. And I do a lot of volunteer work with Immigrant Allies. I'm a co-organizer
And we kind of came up with Immigrant Allies a little bit after the raids. Like Karina mentioned, our mother actually was detained in 2006 during the raid. At the time I was 17 and we were like, what, 11? And we had younger siblings all the way down to 3. Yeah. So we kind of faced the raid on our own as children. We had an aunt that lived here in Marshalltown, and she was kind of our support system. But really, if it wasn't for the community, our church, like Karina mentioned, the library, JOA, they were all there to help us do it. But then we kind of realized there's nothing in place in the community-wise to help immigrants that are going through the same thing. Either educationally-wise, having a plan, what happens during a raid, as well as sharing our story. My mom brought me here to the United States when I was 3 years old, and I was undocumented. And so was she, and so was my brother. We lived in Marshalltown. We've lived in Marshalltown for almost 27 years now. This has been our home the entire time. So it's important to share that information with the community as well with the world, because when we hear the news and see the news, we're labeled as criminals, as you mentioned, and as lawbreakers, and they don't realize that we are the people that are helping our community. I also work with Micah. I work with families that have been affected by the tornado. And prior to that, I was an early Head Start teacher along with Karina and my sister. So these are the people that are helping the community, that are driving the community. You don't realize their background. I've always shared that I was undocumented, and it came to a shock to people because your English is so great and you're so Americanized. I wouldn't be able to tell that you're, undocumented. So it's always been very important for us to share our story. As of April of this year, I no longer had DACA. My husband applied for me. My husband is a citizen, and I was able to obtain my residency. But again, if it wasn't because of his legal status, I would have never been able to obtain mine. So this community to us is very important. The diversity, as we've spoken, but also to teach our children where we come from and how we build our community is very important. Both my husband and I are volunteers, besides our jobs and Immigrant Allies and school and trying to keep each other alive. We like to volunteer, and we teach that to our children. And my husband's actually trying to join the police reserve in the police department.
He's on the council list for Mondays.
So we're trying to build this community and teach that to our children. And my kids are very proud to say that the family is from Mexico, that they're Mexican, but they're also very proud to say that they're Iowan. And I've been quoted to say we're as Iowan as the cornfields and corn, and we're here to stay. And we've grown our roots and we've planted them, and we want to build this community.
Love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. Really powerful. Thank you.
I'm Joelle LaVille. I actually work as the Youth Services Manager at the Public Library, and then am a co-organizer with Maria of Immigrant Allies. I also, to echo what everyone has said about, we raised 2 daughters in town that are adults now, and I was thrilled to move here. Actually coming up on my 20th year at the library in like 4 days or something. And to be able to move and live in Iowa and benefit from everything Iowa offers, but also with a diverse community, that's really the best of both worlds. Immigrant Allies kind of, for me, my desire to work on that came out of knowing, families like Maria's, but also because as an educator at the library, I always am telling kids, work hard and study and be a good person and you'll get ahead. And I realized when I learned about the plight of so many Dreamer students I had, that I was kind of lying to them because really they were hitting a brick wall. So I guess right now one of my biggest concerns is that we've seen firsthand in our community how much DACA just opened up the world, not only for the person and their family, but to allow the person to give back in ways they never could before.
Yeah.
And so I'm very concerned not only about what's going to happen in the Supreme Court this fall with the current DACA holders, but also what we're seeing now with the students that are in the exact same boat that Maria and her classmates were when they emerged as leaders in Iowa calling for the DREAM Act. So we need a lot of reforms, but my heart is really kind of started with these kids, and we need to get, it's an urgent need that needs to be fixed yesterday.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Hi, I'm Lisa Stevenson. I work for the public school system, Marshalltown Schools, and there's two things I would like to share that I think are really impacting Marshalltown Schools, its students and staff. And the one being similar to what you just sadly experienced in El Paso is the fact that there's this fear, right? There's a fear that school isn't a safe place, and what we've done is try to be proactive in that as a community, and we have a community response, emergency response plan. So we are today, again, sharing with our staff, spending valuable time working with our community that supports our students to tell them, this is what's gonna happen, this is what we guarantee. If there should be an emergency, a raid, a crisis in the community, this is how we're going to respond as a system. We let our parents know that, we let our staff know that. We're going to take care of the kids because that's our most important possession. And I'm sure you're going to have similar situations happening in El Paso.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, we are really focusing with ESSA and in public education on not so much just worrying about student achievement, but thinking about the social emotional development of these kids and the trauma that kids are living in right now and working in, and our staff too, because they want to support kids. And so all of these community organizations help us, but now we are also having to put that on the plates of teachers every day about how to keep kids safe. What happens with gun violence in our schools? What happens when these things happen in our country and the kids hear about it on social media? Do they feel safe? Who's there for the kids? And so we are working to build a social emotional curriculum for them, for teachers and for the kids, so that they feel like they have the tools to be able to feel safe in our community, be an Iowan, whatever that may be for them, as well as feel safe being, whatever their nationality may be. So those are two things that I think are really high on our plates, is trying to prioritize, continuing to improve our academics, but also recognizing that there's a lot of stuff going out there in the world that is sitting heavy with our students and their families, and we have to acknowledge that and work on it. And we need politicians to figure it out.
Yes.
We need solutions so that we don't have to spend our time teaching, table drills because there's intruders in our buildings, or comforting and supporting students because there's one more crisis happening in our community or that they've heard about.
That's right. Yeah. Excellent.
And the third, can I say one more thing? The other thing that's a really great point of pride that I just want everyone to know too is that we're one of, I believe, 6 now or 7 in the state who still offers a dual language Spanish-English program.
Yeah.
So that's very common in big cities like El Paso, but not so much in communities in Iowa. And so our district is committed to and has with this system for almost 20 years. So our kids can start in kindergarten and go all the way through 12th grade and earn seal by literacy at the end and be the next mayors or the next whatever it may be, and go bilingual and biliterate in the process and bicultural.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mark Smith, let me limit it to 3 comments here. First of all, the older I get, the more convinced I am that the worst sin we can commit is to teach a child to hate, whether that's characteristics of themselves or characteristics of others. The second point is in December of 2000, shortly after I got elected, then Governor Vilsack pulled together a small amount of money, I think it was $50,000 for 3 communities in Iowa, Marshalltown being one of them, that helped us a great deal with the acculturation issues. So even small amounts of money help communities adjust to changing populations. The third thing is that I firmly believe that we can take strong stances and compassionate stances on the issues of immigration and win elections. I've done that 10 times here in this.
I think everyone holding office or running for office needs to hear that, and doing the right thing has its own rewards beyond, you know, delivering for a community or living up to our potential. Might even just help you out in terms of holding that office or gaining that office. Yeah, it's great. Appreciate that. Chief.
Welcome to Marshalltown.
Thank you.
So my name is Mike Tupper, and I have the coolest job in Marshalltown because I get to serve as the police chief here. So before I talk about Marshalltown, I do have to claim my Texas roots. I was born in Mineral Wells, Texas.
Wow.
I won't say when, it was a long time ago. But welcome to Marshalltown. So my wife and I actually made the deliberate decision of choosing Marshalltown about 8 years ago, and I was given a great opportunity to come here and serve as a police chief in Marshalltown. I've been in law enforcement for 27 years, all in Iowa. The last 15 years, I've served 2 communities now as police chief. We chose to come here because Marshalltown looks like the rest of the world. We love the diversity. We love the opportunities that it provides for us to learn things. As an old guy, I like to learn things, but what I really love about it is I have a 6-year-old son who's going to be in 1st grade at Hoagland Elementary this year, and he'll spend the entire year in a majority-minority school, classroom, and it's great for him.
Yeah.
He is learning so much. He knows kids that speak other languages. He's having an opportunity every day to learn about other cultures that I didn't have growing up in Dubuque, Iowa. So it's just a wonderful experience. And we have a very safe community here, and it has nothing to do with me, by the way. It has everything to do with the people that live here. And what I love about Marshalltown is the volunteer spirit and the fact that we take care of each other. And what we do at the police department is simple. We go out into the community and we try to build relationships and get to know people and build partnerships and collaborations, and that's what Marshalltown is doing a great job of, partnerships and collaborations. As a law enforcement officer for the past 27 years, I'm not an elected official, so I can say this. I've watched Democrats and Republicans kick this can down the street and use it as a political talking point to raise money and garner votes. This is an issue. Immigration is an issue that can be fixed, as the mayor said. You put 20 people in the room and you don't let them come out until it's solved. But it can be fixed, and I'm hopeful that with the candidates that are running for president, some of the things that I'm hearing you say, that we're on the right track to maybe moving in a positive direction so that we can finally resolve this issue. Thank you.
Let me just add one thing to what you said. Thank you, Chief. And it kind of relates to what Representative Smith said about your electoral prospects. You just do the right thing, and good things will follow. One of the arguments against moving forward on immigration has been security and safety. Yeah, Beto, we'd love to do that. It makes all the sense in the world. But first, we got to secure our communities, make them safe. The implication being immigrants are inherently dangerous or violent, unfortunately reinforced by people who are in power and in office right now. We know immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate. And you're a great example. We know that when immigrants do not fear local law enforcement, they're more likely to work with local law enforcement to solve or prevent crimes in the first place. And so, as you were saying, Representative Smith, if we were just to do the right thing, we would actually improve the safety and security of our communities without having to militarize the border or put up walls or put kids in cages or make us afraid of one another. And I think offering the example of Marshalltown, El Paso, Texas, which is one of the safest cities in America, and our sheriff, Richard Wiles, will tell you, not despite, but as you just said, because of immigrants who chose to come here, who are just as, if not more intent on ensuring this community stays safe. What a great example to share with the rest of the country. Let's do the right thing, and not only will we live up to our values, will also make us more secure and safer than we already are. So really appreciate that point. Thank you.
Very good. And the chief downplays how much he's had an impact on this town. You know, the Citizens Academy, they had like 60 people in it this year. It's crazy, busy. And the outreach with the coffee with the cop, that sort of thing, getting our liaison person with the school district. There's been an integration of the police and the community in this city better than anyone I've ever known. So thank you.
Awesome.
Sue Cahill.
I'm Sue Cahill. I have lived in Marshalltown for 30 years, so have really kind of watched this immigration process. I'm an educator, and I sit on the city council. As an educator, some of the best things that I have seen, I was a kindergarten teacher for 12 years and worked in the same school, the dual language school. And the joy that I see when I go into my dentist office, and the hygienist is a girl I had in kindergarten. When we had the Iowa caucuses the last time in 2016, I saw a kindergartner, a girl I had in kindergarten, and she was now 18, 19, and she brought her parents in to participate. It just brings me joy to see the students and their families that have formed a relationship in our community and want to be that active part of it. It is, I have just had that joy of developing those relationships with families, for working in the same school for 18 years and watching it grow and develop. And when in the early times of our change in our community, there was a lot of distrust and all, but we have come that whole generation, and the students that have come out of the school district, the families, are one of the most precious things we have in our community here.
I was told, and correct me if I heard wrong, that at that point, 20 plus years ago, there was a decision for the community to make. Either we want to continue to see immigrants come here, or we want to even maybe encourage the employers of those immigrants to go to another community because we don't want immigrants to be here. So there was almost a conscious choice the community had to make. And it sounded like you and other members of the community at the time made the right choice consciously, and maybe not according to the conventional wisdom of America at that moment or at this moment. Is that true? Was there that kind of civic conversation going on at the time?
I think so. I know that our church had a family-to-family program where our family met with another family that was an immigrant family, and we just had dinner, and we had potlucks together and went to each other's homes to try and cross some of those bridges that are normal in any changing situation. Now on my block, I have the children, the family next door that's from the Myanmar area, and the children are just so lovely. They call me Miss Sue, and they just always come over and use my driveway to ride their bikes in, and it's lovely. And on the other side, I have families who are from some of the other African countries, as well as Hispanic families, just within my neighborhood, within my district. I compliment the community for having the services to encourage that. The organizations like Immigrant Allies, the welcoming of the Chamber of Commerce, to encourage our businesses to be active. Again, I sometimes say I'm not sure where we would be if we did not have the population that we do. I think we would have had to close schools. I think that our situation would be greatly changed.
Thanks.
One of the best things that this town did was recognize that there was a disparity between two middle schools. We coached the mock trial team at one of them. The other one didn't have a mock trial team. The one had track uniforms, the other didn't have a track team. And overnight, the school district said, okay, every 6th grader is going to this school, every 7th grader is going to that school. Absolutely integrated overnight, seamlessly. I mean, that was really a pretty cool part in our history. And it's time for Dr. Schutte to talk about the school.
I greatly appreciate all of the positive references to the school and the experiences that people have. I have a little bit of a uniqueness because I'm a graduate of our school district in high school. I left for 30 plus years to work in other places in Iowa and live, and then had the honor to be chosen to come back to lead and work with the employees of the district. When I graduated in the largest class yet to graduate from Marshalltown High School, I could name every student of color in my class of 518 graduates because there weren't very many. And so to be able to come back to this community more closely mirrors the national demographic that does the Iowa demographic and see the beautiful mosaic of humanity and And then to be able to also see the hard work and effort of not just the school district, but everything we've heard about the community coming together in an effort to make sure that all kids, no matter what their circumstances or position for success beyond high school, whether it be college or career ready, has been something really special. As I'm sure you're aware, Iowa boasts and has for some time the highest graduation rate in the country at 91%. And despite significant challenges that are faced by our students and our families, whether it be socioeconomic or otherwise, fear, trauma, and all that, we have 88%. So in Iowa, that's looked at as something less than by the people from outside, but nationally it should be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're not where we want to be. We want to blow past that national average, but it takes time to figure out how can we acquire the necessary resources or provide equity for our students, for our families, and for our communities to, again, put our kids in a position of being able to pursue their hopes and dreams. I've never been more excited in my 35th year of education to be where I'm at, doing what I'm doing, and again, it's a collective effort of everybody here. The local businesses and industries have been amazing with their partnership. The volunteerism that has been mentioned by people has been amazing here, and it truly does take a village to raise a child. I'm an example of that, and I'm so glad that Marshalltown is still as great as it ever was. It's different than it was, but it's still as great, if not greater, than when I was growing up, in my opinion. And it's really unfortunate because one of the challenges is based on perceptions, based on negativity in the media. We have a lot of our families that choose not to have their kids educated here. 90% of them are white, 90% of them are affluent or not on free reduced lunch, and so our charge is to prove to them the value of not only a diverse education, but a first-rate education as it relates to positioning kids for success. I truly believe we have the best product available in that regard, but convincing everybody of that. And unfortunately for many of them, they won't see till their kids move on to other places in the world what they were passing out and not coming to Marshalltown.
It's interesting, several parents, including the mayor, have said that in addition to the classroom instruction, their children, growing up with children from other parts of the world, was part of the value of the education that you said your graduating class, you said it was 518?
Yes.
And what is the graduating class going to be this year? Or what was
somewhere
it?
between 300 and 350. So
and is that because of families that have peeled off from the public school system or lack of growth in the community?
You know, a big part of it would be families that peel off because we consistently have around 500 students that are residents of Marshalltown go elsewhere, but I think part of it is just the demographics of Iowa and our country. I happen to be in school at the height of Iowa's student population, and there was a significant decline, you know, over a period of time, and now it's leveled off.
And one other question. So, very struck by the dual language program, and my kids are in a dual language school in El Paso, and math is taught in English, math is taught in Spanish. They're just so much more competitive, I'd like to think, for being able to do everything in both languages. You mentioned the volunteerism. Ms. Sue was talking about what her family has done. And we were at the community college. John, the director, said that we have somebody who's a corporate attorney who left that world to come teach English as a second language, someone who is a dental surgeon who is spending their time in the school. So it wasn't just the woman I met from Spain who's trying to better integrate, it's the community welcoming her. But these students, when they graduate from your high school, if they do not have citizenship or documentation, we met some of them last night in Des Moines. They're really struggling with affording higher education, coming forward for fear of being apprehended or their parents apprehended. How do we connect them with that next level of education? What do you see as best practices? I recognize the answer is to legalize their presence, to ensure that they have citizenship or a path to citizenship. But as we wait to get those 20 members of Congress in the same room, what are you seeing that's working here in Marshalltown or in the state that we could point to as an example?
Yeah, well, I think it's the community collaboration and it's the partnerships that we have. Again, we don't have all the answers to that, but it's trying to figure out how to pull resources together in order to help kids move forward. Our partnership with Immigrant Allies has, I think, been a big part of that. Our partnership with Iowa Valley Community College and Marshalltown Community College, which has recently received a designation as being Hispanic supportive school, I believe, something along those lines. You know, I think it's definitely challenging because there are roadblocks to success. We can get and we don't know. I mean, any student that walks in our door is our student, and we're going to do everything that we can to put them in a position of post-secondary success. I think one of the great things that Iowa has done for many years now is provided a senior year plus program where our students in high school can have access to a minimum of 15 hours of college credit if positioned in order to access that either through our school district, many of which our teachers are qualified to teach those classes, or through MCC. And so putting kids in a position, kind of springboarding them into that next step. And we're currently embarking and hoping to open similar doors with our local businesses and industries by providing high-quality work-based learning experiences while still in high school.
Without regard to status,
Correct.
right? As you said, in public schools, you're not asking that. They're in your classroom, they're your student.
Correct, exactly.
Great, thank you.
And also treating the colleges that have committed to in-state tuition for students that are literally Iowans regardless of status really helps open those doors.
There's also
strong
MCC,
partnerships, right?
MCC, so when I graduated in 2007, I actually graduated with one of your daughters as well. I was going to go to college, but my mom couldn't afford my tuition, plus my brother, who was right behind me. So I dropped out of school. I did take advantage and took some classes while I was in high school, so that helped me a little bit. But what I realize now, going back to school 10 years later, that there's a lot more in place. Like MCC has all of these programs that, regardless of your status, there's private scholarships, there's the MEP program that is now in place as well as many of the advisors at MCC are willing to really take a time and look into what kind of plan or what can we do to provide you with an education. Which, when I graduated, that wasn't in place. Yeah, I mean, we were all kind of fighting each other for those very few scholarships available, and of course, not everybody got it.
We really benefit from federal programs too, like Upward Bound and Science Bound and Year Up and all of those systems that are out there. Iowa State University partners with us, and I think the goal is for kids who are ready to get them as many credits as we can while they're in our care in high school, so that it is less of a burden on their families, and it's already set them on the trajectory of continuing this path if and when they're ready, because it's hard for parents who've navigated the system themselves to navigate college for their children, and then to think for immigrant families whose parents didn't even do our K-12 public system to support their children in college is just such a daunting task for so many.
The school board and the school superintendent have been very good about identifying students that aren't going to college too and making them future ready. So they're trying to ramp up the programs that will allow them to help work in the factories and places like that if they don't go on to college. Despite the challenges that we have with language, and I think we're up to 40, 50 different languages spoken in the school district and one of our places of employment, the graduation rate is actually going up here, which is a credit to the community and the school district. And then we have the prototype STEM program in the state of Iowa, which is we're pretty proud of. Other people are trying to figure out how did we do it here and how can they do it there. And just on a personal note, you might go away not knowing this if I didn't mention it, but Dr. Schutte was actually first team all-state football. Fun fact.
That was back when we had leather helmets.
Oh, you had helmets?
So just to piggyback quickly off of what Maria said, she mentioned MEP, so we have the Marshalltown Educational Partnership, which was really a coming together of local business people as well as citizens to contribute to a fund that could help afford annually for maybe upwards of 30 to 40 to 50 students who were first generation college going to have half of their tuition paid in attending Marshalltown Community College. And if they demonstrate, if their families have financial needs, they can actually have it pretty close to all paid for. We also have a program with Iowa State University that Science Bound, where we have another pipeline of students. In this case, it's students of color who are willing to meet certain criteria as they traverse from 8th grade through their senior year of high school. And if they successfully meet these minimum expectations that are put forward, they're guaranteed a 4-year full ride scholarship at Iowa State University in any STEM related field. So there are golden opportunities for kids and families if we can do what we can do collectively to position kids to access those opportunities once they graduate from high school. But it certainly isn't enough to accommodate everybody that might have a financial struggle or a transportation struggle.
And does the taxpayer get it, that this investment in people pays off? You get more education, you earn more, you pay more back into the community, you pay more in taxes, you shoulder a greater share of the burden? Or is that a challenge on the school board and the city council to make the case that this investment will ultimately benefit the kids? It's a little bit more expensive up front to fund these programs, I'm sure.
I think a lot of our community does get it. One of the challenges that we're faced with is that we're a community that is student rich and infrastructure poor in terms of assessed valuation of property and such. And so a lot of the burden does fall on our taxpayers. And so we have to be really careful and guarded. And we try to work to the best of our ability in sync between the city, county, school district, community college, just to be cognizant of what's happening anytime there is an additional ask of any kind. But if they don't get it, they need to get it, because the reality is that 64% of our overall student body are students of color. 71% of our kindergartners are students of color. So one of the things that I've been thrilled about is, though we're not where we need to be, we're a lot further along in terms of embracing the diversity, celebrating the diversity, and trying to figure out, again, how to put everyone, no matter what, in a position for future success. And that's one of the exciting things of being here. As Mayor Greer will share, Marshalltown has always been a special place, and there is a special synergy that is existing to make Marshalltown, the community of Marshalltown, the best that it can be. And despite the challenges that came along on July 19th of 2018 with the EF3 tornado, I think on the back end of that, it's just ramped up that synergy. It has shown us amazing things that can happen when we work together in order to get things done.
It's great.
Well, yesterday, Chief Tucker and I met with about 50 Grinnell freshmen and some upperclassmen, and we've had a great partnership with Grinnell. It's one of the leading liberal arts private colleges in the country, and they bring students from all over the world. And one of the things they talked about yesterday is many of the students, they come from other places. They come from East LA, they come from New York, and when they bring them to Marshalltown, they feel at home right away. And they're very heavily involved in social justice. We've had 3 interns from Grinnell that have done wonderful work. So their work is benefiting our community, making it stronger. But they really feel like these students, and Grinnell is a fabulous community, but very different from Marshalltown. And these students really come here and feel much more at home. And so this is, again, the spirit of collaboration, the volunteerism, which I've been astounded by in the 8 years that I've been here, what people step up and do. And that's one of the reasons that I've stayed in this community and made my home here. So, and then just talking about support, it's a community that voted in 2015 to give the library a little extra money because they know what we do, and it's not often that people vote to tax themselves a little bit more, but they have done that in this community, and I think that we have a lot of things that we can teach the rest of America. As I say, we are a microcosm of the U.S. We're just getting here faster than most people.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's a lot of pride in the community, and it's just evident everywhere I've been, from the community college to the grocery store to coming in here right now, and just hearing the chief say that when he and his wife were thinking about where they wanted to be, the part of the attraction of Marshalltown is that this looks like, I think you said the planet.
The rest of the world.
Yeah, the rest of the world, not just the rest of America, but the rest of the world. And that's, I think, in large part the genius of America is we, unlike so many other countries, figured out how to do that, how to integrate people with really different backgrounds and traditions of faith and walks of life, and they all came here and were better for it and made us better for it. And I love at a time that's an open question in this country, that you all are so resoundingly answering that in the affirmative, that yes, this is good for America, and we want to see more of it. It's wonderful. Other thoughts, comments, suggestions?
Something that you had mentioned, that how we pay it forward, and of course we always have a question too, is, I mean, our family has lived here. My mom has worked at JBS, you know, almost.
This is the
26
Swift.
Yep,
Plan.
after the raid, she was able to receive her residency, and she went back to working at JBS. So she's still there, and we pay taxes. We bought our homes here. There's 5 of us, 5 siblings in our family. My sister got married. She's, you know, working on her process with her husband to bring him from Mexico. She stayed here. My brother is getting married in September, and they just are working on purchasing their first home here in Marshalltown. My husband is from Texas, from Houston, and finally convinced him Marshalltown's the place to be. And we got our first home. Both of our children go to school here, and my mom is still here. My little brother graduated from Marshalltown High School, and he plans to stay here. He's going to MCC, and after that, continuing his education. My baby sister is currently in high school, and she also plans to get her bachelor's, but she wants to come back and teach here. So, you know, even though all of us have grown up differently, different statuses, we've always, you know, realized that this is our home and have kind of, like I said, planted roots here.
And the reason because of that is because this community has given so much to us that we want to give back.
Yeah. Completely agree. I mean, all of us do work in different ways, but I feel like all of us have contributed, and I mean, we've gone from teaching to volunteering to soccer coaches to soon-to-be police officers to construction management. We've done jobs from waitressing to housekeeping to tasseling.
Welcome to
So, I mean, we've done it all, and the whole time we've contributed to this country, to this town.
Maria had a group that I ran into the day after the tornado, and they worked day after day after day, picking up tree limbs and things from people's yards that were affected by the tornado.
We started over by our house because we were hit by the tornado too, and started working down the street, and then as we continued to the stop, just people started showing up, and then they're like, all right, Maria, where's the next place? And I'm like, all right, we're going down the next road. And it just every day, it was like consistently, people would show up or be like, where are you guys at? Let me show up. Then my husband brought Mark Smith's chainsaw, and so that was a whole, we're getting kicked out of the city now. But it was just consistently, people were showing up, and these were, I mean, it didn't matter whose house it was, we just wanted to help.
Yeah, it's so important that you tell that story, that we tell our stories, and sometimes I think our own humility or decency gets in the way. We don't want to brag on ourselves, but I've found that in the failure to do that, other people will tell stories for us. Immigrants are criminals. They're coming to take. You just described in one family everything that you've given and invested, whether it was volunteering after the tornado or the property tax base that you're expanding and deepening as you purchase homes, or your husband's willingness to put his life on the line and serve this community. And the examples go on. But if we don't share those and tell those, then other folks will define us through very fearful terms and terms that are completely untrue. And if ever there were a moment to stand up, it really is now. And if ever there were a moment to share the story of Marshalltown, it really is now. Regardless of politics, party affiliation, any of that, it's just a defining moment for America. And really, I love Sue's comment about, you know, where Marshalltown was 20 years ago and the decision this community had to define itself one way or the other. And I love the decision it made. America at large is at that defining, deciding moment right now. Are we going to be a country of immigrants, or do we wall ourselves off from the world? Do we mass deport kids who've been here for their entire lives? 10 million people, are they rounded up and sent back to countries they haven't been to in decades? Or do we recognize their presence has made us stronger and contributed to our success, and rewrite our laws to reflect that? I think that's the choice we have. But it won't happen through just policy prescriptions and platforms. It's going to be people's personal stories. What you just said moved me and got me and pushed me past you know, something that could be abstract to something that's very personal and is all about you. So keep doing this and just know that it connects and it resonates. I think it'll change the country for the better. It's really good.
We have a bad habit of going to the office every Sunday for about 8 hours, and so post-tornado we're there on Sunday. Sharon comes in and says, go tell these people to go away. And so I go out, we've lost 3 really big trees. And there's a group of about 20, 25 people. I swear the youngest was 5 years old, the oldest was 75 years old. Half spoke English, half did not. I know they didn't all know each other before that day. And I went out and said, listen, we've already got our tree guy lined up, we're insured, please go on to the next place, but thank you. Turns out we weren't insured for it. But anyway, it was just a great example of how people did come together immediately.
I mean, we had aunts that, she's 60, almost 60 years old, and she's like, I can't pick up anything. However, I can make this bomb burrito. I'll show up. And she showed up with horchata and burritos, fed everybody. We had little babies that were like out on the sidewalk, just picking up little limbs. We had guys showing up with chainsaws, trucks showing up, just consistently helping each other. But I agree with what you say. I'm sick and tired of listening to TV and being labeled as a criminal. And like I said before, when I tell people, well, I was undocumented for the majority of my life, it's hard for them to believe that. It's hard for them to believe that I went to high school, that I volunteered, that I helped with the immigrant allies, that I worked with low-income families, that I've taken care of children. None of that reflected what they hear on TV. So when I tell people all of these things, it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to think of you. I don't know what to say. You know,
it doesn't fit with what they've been told to hear.
Absolutely, they forget that we're human too. They forget they've lost humanity towards us, and somehow being an immigrant or being undocumented is scary and it's frightening to them, and they don't realize who we really are.
That's why we always invite people to come to the schools, literally come in and see our kids, because you know it's really hard when you're trying to teach kids this, no matter what the kids look like, whatever. And so, what I love most about Marshalltown schools is that we've diversity is kind of something that's old news for us. Now we're talking about inclusion. We're talking about belonging. Like the people here belong here as much as anyone else for so many different reasons. And so it's our job to get the Karinas and everyone else's at the table, telling us about specifically how can we make our policies, our practices, what programs do we need, and just thinking about our high school graduation, like that's just I get goosebumps thinking about it. But like seeing all those kids walking across the stage and looking out at the thousands of people in the audience who are beaming with pride. Their kids have a high school diploma from an American high school, and this is their future. It's up to them. Like we've worked so hard to make sure that they're included and that they belong. We still have work to do. There's things that we can do to be more culturally responsive. We understand that, but I love that Marshalltown gets this type of interest from candidates like you and others, because we need you. We need you to keep pushing that message so that the negative stories are drowned out and those inclusion and belonging stories get amplified.
We have a beautiful poem that was written by an Indian woman from Brooklyn who came to our town, talked to our community, wrote this amazing poem that's on the windows of the library. in Spanish, in English, and in one of the Burmese dialects, and just talks about the immigrants and the people that came here. And it could have been my family 100 years ago. It's it's a Norwegian family, it's a Mexican family, it's now, like you said, we've seen the Burmese, now we're seeing people from the Congo. All of a sudden, about 2 months ago, I started hearing French in the library, and I was like, wow, what's going on? And, so, I mean, it's all changing, and it's growing, and it's strengthening us.
23andMe told me that I'm Irish, and when we came over, we were discriminated against, and our mother's maiden name was McAllister, but they dropped the Mick. And so for 100 years we've been Collister instead of McAllister because of the discrimination. It's been going on for hundreds of years. It's getting better, and this town, this city is a great example of how we can meld.
Absolutely, and I think just as important as it is to connect the dots for people about why these attacks are happening against immigrants and against Hispanics in particular. And we'll continue to do that, but also elevating examples of success, examples of hope, examples that can make us optimistic about this country's ability to find its way through it and to achieve the legislative result that you just described earlier. And I really find that here, and it's very resonant for me because it very much reminds me of El Paso, Texas, which is a community that really celebrates our diversity. And somebody put it to me this way: we don't see our differences as disqualifying or dangerous. We don't tolerate them or respect them, we embrace them. And we just get that that's what made us strong to begin with. And if we are even more successful going forward, even stronger, even safer, even more successful. So you all are living that and are a great example, and we will reflect that with the rest of the country. We will tell, as others are, and as you are doing, Marshalltown's story in a really positive way at a time that we need a positive example of this country. So really appreciate you bringing us all together and doing this and hosting us. Yeah, very grateful to each of you for coming out.
I'll feel bad if I don't tell one other story.
Please.
We've gone from 20 doctors to 40 family physicians.
Okay.
Mostly because all of the doctors were in their late 60s and so they've retired. One of the doctors is here from India. She will take 10 years to get the ability to stay here to be a family practice doctor compared to any doctor from any other trained in any other country that's more like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
The patients love her. We need her here. We need the law changed in that specific area.
Yeah.
And so we did line up an appointment with Senator Grassley, who's medical staff out in Washington, D.C. with several doctors, many of them out there. But that's something it would be an easy change, real simple change in the statute, and we need more doctors here. So now I can look her in the face when I see her.
I told him, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that.
Hand up. Yeah.